Have you ever really thought about what keeps you safe when you're in a hospital? Well, today we're going to dive deep into that. We're unpacking how these big global patient safety standards became the actual law right here in Mexico.
I mean, it's a pretty scary thought, isn't it? And that worry, it gets right to the heart of why patient safety is so incredibly important. It's not just some policy written down somewhere. It's supposed to be a personal guarantee for your well-being, especially when you're at your most vulnerable.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture. This whole challenge of keeping patients safe, it's not just a Mexico thing. Nope, this is a global issue that healthcare systems all over the world have been trying to solve for decades.
Yeah, for more than 20 years, the World Health Organization has been sounding the alarm on medical errors. That resolution, way back in 2002, that was a massive turning point. It basically put the entire world on notice and set the stage for real international action to create solutions that could work everywhere.
So, with the problem officially recognized on a global scale, what was the solution? Well, it all started with creating a single, unified set of goals that everyone could follow.
I want you to think of the International Patient Safety Goals, or IPSG, as a kind of universal recipe for safety. They were created by a group called the Joint Commission International to give every hospital on the planet a clear, foundational guide for how to prevent the most common and the most dangerous medical mistakes.
And these 6 goals, they are the absolute bedrock of modern patient safety. We're talking about everything from the super simple but absolutely critical act of making sure you are who you say you are, to things like clean hands and marking the correct spot for surgery. Each one targets a major weak point in healthcare, where things can go terribly wrong.
Okay, now let's bring it home to Mexico, because Mexico didn't just copy and paste these global ideas. Instead, it took these principles and forged them into something totally its own, a very specific, and this is the most important part, a mandatory national framework.
You can really see the whole story unfold right here on this timeline. It all started back in 2009 when Mexico started using the international goals for certifying hospitals. But the real game changer, that happened in 2017 when these goals went from being a recommendation to being the law. And just recently, in 2023, they got even stronger.
And here's the key thing you have to understand about the ASCP. These are not suggestions. They are not best practices. They are legally required actions for every single hospital, clinic, and healthcare provider in the country, all tailored to the specific realities of Mexico's health system. And here's the legal muscle to prove it. This quote from the General Health Council leaves zero room for interpretation. It doesn't matter if a hospital is public or private, huge or tiny, it must comply with these rules. There is absolutely no gray area.
So, what does all of this actually look like when you're the one in the hospital bed? Let's zoom in on a couple of key differences between the global goals and Mexico's rules, and see what they really mean for you as a patient. Okay, the main difference boils down to this. The international goals are often flexible, like a set of guidelines. But Mexico's rules, they are specific, strict, and rigid. Let me show you what I mean with a couple of really clear examples. Let's talk about something as simple as that plastic ID bracelet they put on your wrist. The global standard is pretty flexible. It just says that the hospital needs to use 2 identifiers, and they can pick which ones. But in Mexico, the law is incredibly specific. It must be your full name and your date of birth. No ifs, ands, or buts. Or how about this? A doctor calling in an order over the phone. Internationally, a hospital can design its own safety check for that, but not in Mexico. Here, there's a mandatory 4-step protocol. Whoever takes the order has to listen, write it down, read it back, and then get confirmation. It's a strict, standardized loop designed to completely eliminate any chance of a miscommunication. All right, let's zoom back out and talk about the stakes here. Because, following these rules brings some huge benefits. But failing to follow them, well, that comes with some incredibly severe consequences. When hospitals really get this right, it's a massive win for everyone. You, as the patient, are obviously much safer, the hospital itself is always getting better, and public trust in the whole system grows. It's not just about ticking boxes, it's about building a true culture of excellence that leads to better care for all of us. But then there's the flip side. We have to talk about what happens when these rules are ignored, because the consequences are just incredibly serious. The risks are just profound. When there's non-compliance, the fallout is just devastating. For patients, it can literally mean the difference between life and death. For the hospital, it means a shattered reputation and legal nightmares like lawsuits and huge fines. And maybe the saddest part, is that when the rules are ignored, the system can't learn, which means the same preventable mistakes just keep happening over and over again.
So, at the end of the day, all of these rules are so much more than just bureaucratic red tape. They represent a fundamental ethical promise from a hospital to you, the patient. It's a commitment to protect you and to prioritize your well-being above absolutely everything else.
So that leaves us with one final thought. For you, the next time you find yourself in a hospital, what signs of safety are you going to look for? Will you notice if they check your full name and date of birth every single time? Because knowing this stuff empowers you to be an active partner in your own safety. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.